Hello, guys. Welcome to another live show, another live She Knows Arsenal match reaction for one of the most infuriating matches that I've watched in a long time. I mean, I don't think I've been this angry after a game since Leeds when we beat them 1-0 like 2 years ago. I am so angry. Obviously not at the players but just I don't even really know where to begin because that was just the most infuriating game because Michael Oliver has done so many fucked up things to us. And he just he will never beat the allegations. He will never beat the allegations. Today was a day that I just think everybody, whether you're an Arsenal fan or not, can see that we do have shit to complain about. And it was more than one thing. For me, it wasn't just the insane straight red that he gave to Miles Lewis Skelly, but it was also the fact that João Gomez was able to stay on the pitch after he kicked the ball away right after halftime on a yellow card. Because if you rewind back to the beginning of the season when Declan Rice got a second yellow and Trossard got a second yellow, and we dropped points in both of those games, they, and when I say they, I mean rivals, refs, pundits, said they had no choice. There was no talk of, the spectacle, the fact that never in history have players been penalized for kicking balls away, none of those things. Nobody spoke about the fact that football is not played by a rule book. There are, things that are subjective in the game that need to be taken into account. And the referees definitely do have autonomy over the way that they referee a game. Absolutely. It's the reason why we see such atrocious refereeing in England and why when we're playing in the Champions League, it's like, oh, wow, because they use their fucking brains. At the beginning of this season, they said the referees had no fucking choice but to send people off for a second yellow. And João Gomez got the opportunity to make the tackle that he did on Timber, which was dangerous. Serious foul play. but had a second opportunity to kick the shit out of Timber's ankle and get away with a yellow. Because we know the repercussions between a second yellow and a straight red are definitely different. I want him out. I want him out. He should have got a straight red for that. And even further than that, he should have been off instantly after the second half. What the fuck am I watching? What the fuck was that? What was it? I need somebody to answer these questions. Why is everybody pretending somebody to answer this shit for me? Why was he on the pitch after he kicked the ball away? Why was his tackle not deemed serious foul play after Mazzucchelli's was? When on earth has that tackle been considered a red card that Mazzucchelli did? It was atrocious. And this same referee is the same one that just could not send Kovacic off after he did 2 red card tackles at the Emirates because he didn't want to mess up the spectacle. He didn't want to mess up a big game. Fuck off. I don't care if this gets demonetized. I am tired. I am tired. I tried to calm myself down and I was like, I am not going to have a meltdown, but I am fully melting down on this stream and I don't care. I don't give a fuck. I am so angry. I am so mad. I'm so mad. I'm mad. Am I on mute? Am I on mute, guys? Can you hear me? When I yell, the mic definitely like stops working. So you guys should be able to hear me now, but it is just beyond me, you know? Like, it's just beyond me. It's, when the red card came out, I just said, like, I just don't want to watch this season anymore. And I know that that sounds like, you know, oh, you're being a pussy, whatever. But I don't have it in me. I don't have it in me. If the boys didn't come back today, I just don't know if I could watch this season anymore because it's just the injuries, this everything, it's taken it out of me. It really is. And the referees are just, we have to control the controllables and we'll get to those parts because I believe in a holistic match reaction that doesn't just focus on one aspect of the game. We definitely need to talk about, the disaster class from our front three today. But outside of the controllables that I do feel like we struggle to control, especially this season, I just cannot watch this tomfoolery anymore. What the fuck? And there's no answers. There's no answers. I need somebody to explain to me how João Gomez even had the opportunity to slide through Timber's ankle. I need somebody to understand, explain to me how 90 yards away from goal, MLS doing that tackle is a red card. It could fucking explain. How is João Gomez's tackle on Timber not deemed excessive force? I am sick to my back teeth of this shit. I'm tired, man. Like, fuck off. I'm so happy that we got the 3 points because I do think it's important for this team to persevere beyond bad refereeing decisions because I do feel like the longer that they feel that they could get away with it, the more that they'll do it. I think that they get the validation from us dropping points, So if we stop dropping points, and I know it's like, well, Jess, we're down to 10 men, but the only outcome from us going down a man is not to drop points. Against City at the Etihad, I can understand, but there are games where I feel like we could have done better. And I think where we struggle when we don't have the cards are not stacked in our favor and we're literally fucked by PGMOL is that the controllables don't get controlled because we should have probably been 2-0 up before, the red card even came out. Brighton game as well probably should have been 2 or 3 goals up, so there's the PGMOL being literally like the bane of our existence. And then the fact that we can't persevere beyond it most times because we can't control the controllables. And we'll talk about all that today, you know? So make sure you guys smash the likes. Fuck my life, man. Like, also, like, I know I wasn't here after um the game against Dynamo. It was. I was deathly ill, and I've been going through some things in my personal life, so I apologize for not being here, but shit be shitting, The Arsenal perspective says also not holding back on this Havertz issue. He cannot hold the front line for us. He's not good enough. He cannot be our main number 9 striker. Kwame says Gomez is a bumhole. He should have been sent off for kicking the ball away after trying to injure Timber. Do you understand, like, the level of gaslighting that has happened this season? The fact that there's so many people that want to sit back because they don't like Arsenal, that pretended like that whole charade about kicking the ball away wasn't just all for us. Nobody else was. They could only keep up the charade for about 2 weeks before kicking the ball away. They're like, yeah, well, we can't just keep giving away yellow cards. Yeah, because you'll start having to give away yellow cards to the teams that you fucking like. Yeah, you only like doing it to us. Gomez should have been off that pitch. The way my head is on Mars right now, but it was on Pluto in another fucking galaxy when he kicked that ball away. And the pundits are like, oh, he's a lucky boy. Well, we don't ever get to be a lucky boy. We're never a lucky boy. We're never a lucky boy. We are refereed within an inch of the book, like within the inch. Oh my gosh. All right. I just love a bitch today. Johnny D says, yes, Michael Oliver is a clear Arsenal hater with proven facts. And so are those who appoint him over and over for our games. I mean, he referees so many of our fucking games. He referees so many of our games. I'm sick of seeing his ass. I'm sick of seeing his ass. I really am. Brian, thank you so much for your super chat. Says, I like Kai, but he had a stinker again. We'll get to it. Let's get the PGMOL out first, because I know that a lot of people are furious, and they should fucking be. We should be mad. This was ridiculous. So let's get that out of the way, and then we'll go into the individual performances, which do need to be talked about. They do. Disgracia. Exactly. What the fuck? Fabi says, we are refereed to the rules of the game. Everyone else is refereed to the spirit of the game. This is how they justify this. Exactly. And there has to be nuance and subjectivity because every single game is not the same. And the whole reason why we have referees instead of robots at this stage is because referees can use common sense. They're supposed to be able to use common sense. I want them replaced by robots if they're not going to be able to use the brains between their ears to make the right decisions based on the temperature and the subjectivity of each and every match, because they're not the same. Gabella says Gabriel should have kept that armband, should keep that armband. I think he did a good job, standing in for Odegaard. I think if we didn't score that goal, I would still be like, oh my gosh, Gabriel, the last time that he got the armband, we also had one of those catastrophic games. So yeah, I think Gabriel, makes a good captain, and he stood in well for Odegaard. And we'll also talk about, before the game and during the game, where I think people were slowly realizing that, yeah, we don't play better without Odegaard. I know that he's not playing well this season, but we're genuinely a much worse team, and we can't put the whole thing on Winieri. He's not ready. I don't know why you guys try to elevate him to a level just because you guys don't like Odegaard. Be a grown-up. Like, Winieri is not going to be able to replicate those performances, and it's so unfortunate that Odegaard wasn't feeling well when he got there, because Winieri really would have been so much better at right wing. When he's playing at right wing, he doesn't have as much of the responsibility. That right center mid is just not a position that could just be filled by anyone. And I don't know how many times people need to see that to get it through their fucking heads. You may not like Odegaard. He may not be having a great season, but there is nobody in this team that can replicate that. And it looked like we were struggling. It wasn't like the struggle bus of life where we couldn't create any chances. I expect us to create chances against literally one of the worst teams in the league. Wolves are the worst, worst defensive side in the league. I expect us to create chances even with the Trossard, Martinelli, Havertz trifecta, but let's be adults. You can have your qualms with Odegaard. You can think he's weak and not good enough to be captain, but let's stop trying to pretend like there's anybody in the squad at current that can play that position. You know, like Ethan is a great player. I really am hoping that Odegaard can shake whatever this is off because he's our answer for right wing while Saka's out. Because that was really the hardest part about today was the ripple effect of Odegaard being out was not just our general play, but we lost something at right wing that Ethan gives us that Martinelli can't replicate. And so yeah, Victor says these refs, man, same guys who didn't want to send each other to the monitor because his mate was having a bad day, bunch of clown. Oh man. I'm not even a blame the refs girly. That's just not my vibe. But today just rattled me something differently because it was so blatant. I wish y'all could see these two dogs fighting. Let's see. Gunnar45 says Arteta is always lying, and he said he was very worried about Saliba, and he starts him the very next week. Diehard Gunner says Martinelli literally won us the game front the right wing. Well, Calafiori won us the game because he scored the goal, but there's a difference between performance and moments, and this is why we have Havertz as our 9 right now because of this way of thinking. This way of thinking of if somebody has a decent moment, they played well and they saved us is the exact reason why Havertz is our number 9 right now. He has moments that mask his overall performance that hurt us 90% of the time, but the 10% of the time that he actually directs the ball into the back of the net or hits the tap in, people are going, oh, well, he has 12 goals this season in all competitions. Martinelli did not have a good game today, but put in one decent cross that, thank God, Calafiori put in the back of the net. Anton Dunn says, I hate when Martinelli is on the ball. Nasty work. Brap says, Martinelli is shot of confidence, man. He can't take no one on. We should cut our losses. I just think Martinelli is somebody that, one, needs to play on the left. I don't think the right suits him. I think he works hard, but we're literally giving out medals now for working hard and tracking back and, running around. I think he's more effective on the left, and he should be the backup left wing on the left. He just should. He's not an answer on the right. He's just not. MD says Havertz was excellent today, constant threat and very unlucky. And no, I'm not trolling. Listen, if that's who you want to be your starting number 9 next season, then fair enough, but our standards have dropped to an unbelievable low where you have so many people in this fan base that want to back Havertz to the nth degree. And I just feel like, obviously, we don't make the decisions, but to see it happening is really it's just weird. Somebody should do a study on it, because that was a disaster class. If a rival, actually, if he was at Chelsea and he put in the performance that he did today for them, we would be trolling them. We would be bantering them. It was not a good performance, and none of our attackers really had great performances. They worked hard. They didn't put their heads down when we went down to 10 men, but I expect that of an Arsenal player. I don't expect us to just sit down and take it when we go down to 10 men, but the touches, the lack of competency, the poor decisions in the final third, this lack of conviction, it's just all things that we've seen before, and it's just a broken record at this point. We're missing our best attacker, and without him, it really unveils the level of our attack, which is not good, So I don't know if you think that Havertz and Martinelli played well today. I think we've just lowered the standards so low that we think that those are decent performances for Arsenal Football Club forwards. I genuinely don't see how you can think that those were great performances, but yeah, that's fair enough. We all see different things, don't we? Kwame says Havertz isn't good enough. Trey says it's funny how scouting Works, you're telling me a player like St. Maximum couldn't do a job for us on the left wing. He's just chilling in Turkey. Nobody is direct and it's awful to watch. Wouldn't want St. Maximum either, to be honest. But I kind of get what you're saying. But if our scouts came back with old ass St. Maximum, that's not really great scouting um, either, But I kind of get what you're saying. Mata says Havertz can hit the ball either straight down the middle or of the net or he misses. Victor says lots of these fans wouldn't take Havertz if you put him in a Chelsea in Chelsea. He has the same numbers. I mean, it's just one of those things where I just think we'll always agree to disagree. I do think that he has, I would say, a cult following, and it's just strange to see. Diehard says, "Where would we be without Havertz moments?" I mean, but again, this is exactly why he's our number 9 right now. You guys are proving my point over and over again that because you guys are trying to prove that he's a good player for us and, he's not the problem, that his moments are the reason why Arsenal felt comfortable not going into the season improving our front line. So it's not about, well, if he didn't do what he did at the back end of last season, we would have been blah blah blah. There's a world where if we had just bought a striker, we wouldn't be having these conversations at all. We might be with a Premier League title. So it's small mind thinking, trying to prove that Havertz is a great player for us because he scored these goals, trying to prove that our attack doesn't need it improving, which is the same, again, thought process that was happening during the transfer window. We scored 91 goals. So why are you upset that we don't have any attackers? Why? Because we're not getting attackers. We scored 91 goals. Havertz, look at his moments. If we didn't have his moments, it's the reason why we don't have a number 9 right now. This is the disease that is infecting this club right now. And a lot of you guys have it. And you guys might want to go to the doctor and check that out because it's a nasty, nasty disease. You guys watch the performances and actually try to gaslight us into thinking that because it hit. I mean, where were the moments today? There are too many games like this. Too many games like this. His overall play is pretty poor. He's not really required to do anything of note. So the level is already really dropped. As long as he does wall passes and it hits a teammate, we're okay with it. And he can miss 3 really good opportunities today. And people are talking about where will we be without his moments. I mean, it's getting to the point where I really think some of you guys need to go seek help. Like, I just don't go back and, like, when I say seek help, I mean go on YouTube and watch old film of RBP and Henri and then tell me that this is what we should be accepting, that this is good enough. I think some of you guys are too far away from your roots. Burmy says, I'm tired of us just scraping by in games. This attack will not win us anything. And again, the attack was bailed out by the defense. You know, it's Calafiori that came up with that moment. If that ball had hit one of our attackers' feet, I don't know that it goes in the back of the net. So to me, it wasn't a good performance, by the attackers, in my opinion. But if you think it was, fair, um, yeah. Gunnar 217 says, Jess, you can't teach these people the difference between moments and standards. People are just happy to glorify mediocrity. Big up you, 100%. I don't know why I struggle with that. But yeah, like, I just think we're all agree to disagree, Kwame says, Blaze, you're right. If it was Abba, Giroud, Alexis, and Eduardo, they'd be scoring endlessly. And I also just think that, like, there's just a lot of, like, half chances we can't make into full chances. I think if we ever at some point do end up with a clinical striker in this team, I think it'll be even more obvious that this era of him being our number 9, or just not having a pure number 9, this isn't just a Havertz problem. This is historical back to Lacazette. We had Lacazette, then Jesus, and then Havertz, 3 players that missed quite a few chances, went through long goal droughts, kind of needed obvious chances to put it in the back of the net kind of thing. I think once we get like a pure number 9 or somebody that just knows what to do in front of goal, I think this era will look all this like pretending like it's good and, you just don't understand ball because you can't see what Havertz is doing. All this will look really silly. Um, you know, so yeah. Brian says, I like Havertz, but you're crazy to think he can be our only striking option. He should have won the game 3-0. New attackers are needed. And when I talk about the disease that has like very much so infiltrated this fan base, when I knew it was like at its full peak, when I was having a conversation with somebody and they said, well, if we get Isak, don't you think that it would be okay to play him on left wing and let Havertz play central? Let him play number 9. It's rampant. And so at this stage, I think I'm okay with us agreeing to disagree. There's just a huge section of this fan base that love this player and have attached themselves to this player. And that's fine. You know, you know, Natty says the only striker that is available to us is Jokeris. Keep what we have until the summer. Victor says 100%. There are a lot of balls that go to the box and don't look like real chances. So people say we don't create enough, but a true 9 is scoring most of those. Example, Tierney cross at the end today. And that was a really, really good cross by Tierney. And, I think we do maybe miss some decent delivery because I do think our attackers, like when they actually get the ball into the box and it goes to somebody, it's more of a surprise than, a normal situation. I think Saka is pretty much our only consistent crosser. Now somebody will turn around and say, yeah, but Trossard and Martinelli crossed it the other day. Yeah, they did. And that's probably some of the fewest times that they were actually able to pick somebody out in the box. So having a decent crosser in the team does make a difference. I do want to say that I do feel really bad for Miles Skelly. He looked distraught and I don't think that he deserved that red card, and I do think that we should challenge it. I really don't think we should let it go. I know that they won't take it away because they would never admit that they made a mistake um, of this magnitude, but I do think that Miles Skelly is super unlucky. Now we lose him for 3 games, and Manchester City is next. Now Calafiori is now fit again, but we're just like we're getting players back and they're just at the edges of being fit from an injury and then we're putting them back in. I think that's also why in certain moments when Yeri and MLS maybe didn't make the right decisions. I don't think it was just their inexperience. I also think they're coming back from injuries as well. People are coming back from injuries and then being rushed straight in. As I'm telling you right now, we are on the edges of a timber breakdown. He is within an inch of his life. He was assaulted today by multiple Wolves players, and he just looks like he's out on his feet, which is not surprising coming back from an ACL. White could not come back any sooner, but this one in, one out, we're really taking this fucking serious. Saliba and Miles Lewis-Skelly in, Odegaard and Marino out. Miles Lewis-Skelly's going to be out the next game. Calafiori just came back from injury. I mean, it is just a nightmare. It really is. This is definitely the season from hell. I'll tell you that, and this will also like Arsenal fans that did up the first season that we challenged that we had these injury issues and we had the injury crisis and Saliba. This is an injury crisis. Don't ever like use injuries again. Like seriously, this is what an injury crisis actually looks like. What we experienced in 2022, 2023 was like a very simple bottling. Like it wasn't the Saliba injury was just no. No, no, no. This is a crisis. This is a crisis. You're experiencing this shit right now. Victor says, Ben White, we need you, please. We do need him. Fred says, Jess, how does it feel that Northside and Lee Gunner cooked you? I don't know. I don't know. If they cooked me, I'm still alive and kicking, So there's 800 people watching the stream. There's money in my bank. I have people that love me. So apparently the cooking didn't do much, Godspeed. Jordan says, no defense splitting passes, passing around the box all the time. When opposition turns the ball over, we never capitalize. Our attacking coach needs to be sacked. Who is our attacking coach? Burmese says, you're right, Jess. Timber is a game or two away from collapse. Ben White needs to come back so he can get some rest. He really does. Like, it's just looking bleak, but the positive, the real positive side of everything is that we persevered for the first time. I'm really trying to think, has there been a time where we had a red card in the first half and we've come back? Because I think most times we do drop points. I have to go back and look at that, but I really do say, and I said this at the beginning, I'll say it again. I think controlling the controllables and persevering beyond really bad refereeing decisions is the only way that this team grows a backbone. And I think it's the first step in them stopping the nonsense, because the referees have never favored Arsenal. We've always had these abominations happening all the way back to Highbury. The difference is that those teams persevered beyond the bad refereeing. And as we've gone further and further down the line, the teams have got weaker mentally. Um, and also, it's not just the team, it's the coaching and all of that. Everything is just a lot weaker, and we just don't have the the strength, and so this team needed to persevere. It's Wolves. I know we're away from home, but they're an incredibly poor team that really probably should be getting relegated. Like, we should be able to, persevere beyond this. Um, Let's see. I think Ben White is back next week. We have MLS available for UCL. I think we can do what we need against Girona and the rest Timber, and possibly ease Ben White back for the weekend. There needs to be, and I know that they make plans like this, so I'm not like saying like, oh, they need to listen to me, but I'm hoping that they have some sort of plan to try to like maybe ease players in as well as possible, because we are like very much so like everybody is just like on the edges, and that's really scary. It is, because we cannot afford any more injuries. We really can't. Now, um I do want to just put this out here, and I know that this doesn't really matter, but it did dawn on me a little bit that Kieran Tierney is making teams for Arsenal Football Club and Kiwior is not. um Make of that what you will. Burmy says, on principle, that red card on MLS needs to be challenged, even if it doesn't get overturned. I think it does need to be challenged. I know that it won't get overturned, but I just think for the sake of it, like, we just need to. World Boss says, Jess, I think Timber needs to be rested. This is the first fit season, and the knock he took today was horrid. P.S. We don't care about Northside and all these people. Listen. I had people calling me, telling me that they were doing streams about me on the weekend when I'm spending time with my family and having a good time in my life. And so, it is what it is. If they want to spend time talking about me, that's fine. Like, they have every right to talk about who they want to. But you would never catch me on a weekend, on a Sunday, talking about somebody that doesn't really care about them. It's like, you would never catch me doing that. Truth Seeker says MLS foul was about the same kind of challenge as Gomez foul, a yellow and a second yellow for Gomez. It just shows how Oliver is a cheat. I mean, he just ruined this game so badly, and he's just so incompetent, and he gets all of our games, and I'm just trying to understand, like, what are you getting at? Like, what are you trying to do? Because so many of the things that you do are just so out of left field. You just would never see them in any other game. You just would never see them in any other game. This is the same person that gave Martinelli 2 yellows in one sequence. Um, he's just quite literally a dumb fuck. And I know that that sounds like very like, oh my gosh, Jessica, don't say that. But I mean this with all sincerity. He has a box of rocks between his ears. He is a dumbass, and he looked like one today. Victor says, those guys were weird. Sorry, I would read it, but this is our time. Like, who cares? Um, So yeah. Goyan says 10 versus 10 is better than 11 versus 11 for the more ball playing side, to be fair. But I also will say that after we went down to 10 men, I actually don't think that we were like awful either. Like, and when I say like the awfulness, this is in the scope of what we had available and what our level has kind of been this season. Most of our games this season have been well below our level. And so I'm not saying that we played good, but we were still creating openings. We were still #dangerous, things like that. So I think what this team should take from this is that we can still play our football a man down. We should still feel like we should attack. We shouldn't just go into a shell. I know that Wolves are like shit and all that kind of stuff, but I think just like throwing in the towel and just bunkering it in when outside of the Etihad doesn't make sense to me when we go down a man, because we should still be better than these teams. So yeah, hopefully they got that. Leopold says, "I'm just drained. Can we be left to play the game?" Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm exhausted from this. Could you could you imagine like how the players feel? Like, who has been on the pitch every single time that we got a red? There must be somebody. There has to be somebody. I'm trying to think. We know Raya, but he doesn't like run around. Gabrielle? Yeah. Gabrielle, I think, has been on the pitch each time that we got the red. He must be tired. He must be. He must be because playing down a man is ridiculous. It just wow, Rice got sent off, so it couldn't be him. It couldn't be him. So yeah, probably Partey too. I think he's been on the pitch each time that we've had a player sent off. Yeah, must be tired. Like that's just it's just wild, man. Kwame says, I can't believe the referees don't get suspended. I mean, full investigation needs to be had. Like, genuinely, what is going on? Like, I am still just like, yeah, I am mystified. Amina says, just would you say it's a terrible thing that our defenders are constantly saving us this season, being clutch compared to our attackers? I would say that it's a good thing in terms of the season if you still feel like there's something to play for. You know, there are still people in the fan base and I understand this aspect of things. If you don't have hope there, then why do you watch? I get that. Um so it's good for that narrative that there's still something to play for. We could still win the Prem, we could still win the Champions League, things like that. We could still go to St. James and do something. But for the wholeness of the conversation around Arsenal and how we've gotten to this 5-year mark with Mikel and haven't won anything and are nearly men and stuff, no, it's not. I do think that our defense carries this team too much. Last 2 seasons, I do think it's been primarily the defense, whether it's from a defensive standpoint or an attacking standpoint, that have been our most consistent and dangerous players. And you want that to be an addition, but you don't want that to be your only thing. And I don't feel like it's an addition. I don't feel our set pieces are an addition. You have moments of brilliance, individual brilliance. You have set pieces, you have patterns of play. Um, you have those things that, how you can score goals. We don't have the individual moments of brilliance. So we have patterns and set pieces. And oftentimes when things get really difficult, we just have set pieces and it's not our attackers that are scoring those. It's the defenders. So I don't think it's a good thing. I think it's not an additional thing. It's kind of like becoming more of like an only thing. And we have moments where we score from open play. And so I'm not saying that we don't, but I think if you had to choose the way that you want to see Arsenal go about business, you'd want what we're doing defensively and set pieces and all that kind of stuff, in addition to maybe the attacking vibe of 2022, 2023. And we haven't quite gotten that right. So yeah, I don't necessarily think it's a good thing. Um, so yeah, C or Sai, sorry, says no, bud, they cook themselves. Um, oh yeah, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I think you guys are still talking about those two people. Um, I would say like just final word on that because it's just like at this stage, it's like, I mean, his name is Big Fat Robbie. I don't know if he's trying to talk about some other Robbie or if he's talking about himself, but um, if you think that two people sitting on a stream for hours talking about me is me being finished and them somehow thriving, then you're probably just as big of a loser as they are. My bank account has not changed. The people I'm working with is not changing. My career is thriving. I do this because I want to, not because I have to, unlike them. If, you know, if the world changes, their whole lives will crumble and mine will not, or they'll have to go back to some shitty job that they don't really want to do. Um, I'm actually in a really good place in my life. So I feel like if you need to go online to talk about somebody else and like literally do a stream to cook them, and you're fully 40 years old and you're a grown person with children, if you think I'm finished and I'm cooked, then we're just in like a really different place, you know? Um, these are not people that I would even share any time with or anything. So, I do feel like the majority of their followers are incels and young people. And um, if you think they're cool and you think I'm a loser, I'm okay with that. Let's just put it that way. Um, so yeah. Uh, let's see. Victor says you can tell from that name that they're at mostly 12 years old. They move like hive mind and repeat whatever their masters say. And, I don't talk about people that don't talk about me. So I'll say that for sure. If they've made you guys believe that I just out of nowhere was talking about them or something like that, then that's fair enough. But again, fully 40 years old, making streams about a woman in the United States that doesn't care if you're here today or gone tomorrow. If they're cool, then let them be cool to you. I'm cool on that. Like, I don't know what to tell you guys. Um, so yeah, and they're more than welcome to stay in the stream. I'm not going to block them or anything like that. When they stay in the stream and they comment, they actually make my stream make more money. And so I'm more than happy for them to like be here. It's really not that big of a deal. But on Monday morning, I will still be making money outside of YouTube. So I'm not as cooked as you guys think. Boy says every single time Jess has said a thing about them, it's been prompted by their minions in the chat. Exactly. So I just don't really understand. Like, honestly, I had like 10 people call me this weekend and say, like, I can't believe this is happening, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's not happening. It's not happening because it's not my problem, it's theirs. So let's do our player ratings. And because there was actually like individual performances, once you get beyond the red card situations, I do think there's something there's some meat on the bone there. So let's go ahead and do that, because sometimes we don't, and that's only when like everybody plays like ass and there's like really no reason to talk about it. But I think like the first person I do want to talk about, we always talk about him first, but Raya made, these dogs are locked in this room. Hold on real quick. Give me 2 seconds. How about, come on. You guys don't do that. So Raya made like 2 or 3 really good saves today. He did. And I don't want that to go unnoticed, because I know that there's games where maybe we think we can do better, or it's like we need him to keep us in the game or whatever. He definitely did that today. It could have been a different story if he doesn't make some of those saves. Some of those chances that they had were actually pretty dangerous. So I actually think, clean sheet. This is like our first clean sheet away from home, funnily enough, in like 9 games or something like that. So, and a big part of that was, was Raya, so I'm gonna give him an 8.5. How's that? I think that that's actually a decent score for him. I love Raya. You guys know I love Raya down. I think he's shown, despite all the like weirdness going on with the team, I do think he's shown a pretty consistent level, has been one of our better performers this season. And so well done him. Timber was literally assaulted throughout this entire match, and I will never forget the things that I saw today. I thought to myself, are they just going to kill him, or what's going on here? Timber is like literally dead on his feet. So yeah, so I don't think it was like his, I think from like a grinding it out, you know, um, doing his job defensively type of game, he did those things. I think where he struggled, and it's not really that big of a surprise because like our whole right half space was different. For the first half, it was like Winieri and Martinelli. And then the second half, I don't know what the fuck it was, So yeah, I'm gonna give him like a 7. I think it was like a good performance, not like his best, but I do think we're seeing like the beginning stages of him like falling off. And I feel the same thing about Ben White when he has games like this because I think it's really obvious when Ben is not fully fit. And I think people are disingenuous about it because they just want to be like, White is just shit. But I think it's sometimes it's kind of obvious when you've seen them play really well and then you see the drop off. It's a physical drop off with him. And our fullbacks take a beating. They're such a big part of how we progress the ball and how we play the game. And they just don't get to sit back and like do the odd overlap every once in a while. They're literally like on duty the whole 90 minutes, offensively, defensively, whatever, So I think that our fullbacks get a workout, and he's definitely on the edges. So I'm hoping that Ben is like ready literally now, but 7, I think it was like a solid, good performance really. Saliba, besides like one little weird thing that he did where he like tried to do a little Cruyff turn and then they were on like a counterattack, I thought he was good. I don't think that it was like his like Saliba has moments that are like really really good. I don't think he necessarily had those, but I'll give him a 7 as well. I think it was like a solid good performance. Gabrielle led the team well in adversity, wore the captain's armband, didn't look out of place, you know, went about business normally, no mistakes at the back. Our defense is really the best thing about this team, and he's a big part of it. We talk about what will we do without Saliba. I don't think we talk enough about what would happen if we didn't have Gabrielle. I don't think we're under any threat of that at the minute, but he's good enough to play at another elite side. He is. He's more than good enough, So every day that he plays for us, we should be like, just like with Saliba, thank you. So I'm gonna give him a 7.5, just like a little bit higher, just because he wore the captain's armband and that kind of stuff. Just give him like extra sprinkle. But yeah, I'm glad he got the win and the clean sheet. Because the last time he wore the captain's armband, it was like literally like I swear it was the Bournemouth game. It was the last time that he wore the captain's armband. And we know what happened then. So, um, MLS, so unfortunate, honey. I don't really blame him for the red card. I don't think it's a red. What I will say though is that, I think he was having some like good moments and some not so great moments. I think a little bit of that is him coming back off of injury and then also just being a young player and like Wolves were really stepping onto him and stuff like that. And he wasn't really getting his game off like he usually does, but he had one really nice slip ball into Rice that I think Rice could potentially do better with. I think if he sorts out his feet a little bit quicker, he gets a shot off there. So it's really unfortunate for Miles. I really hate that it had to be him. You got Olivered. So I'm gonna give him like a 6, like good average type of performance. He didn't play long enough, I don't think, to give him like the full 7 or anything like that. But my heart goes out to him because he was having like an amazing season so far, and here he is, Oliver, sticking his fucking head in like a dummy. Victor says 5.5 unlucky. Trini says good lesson for MLS today. Esteban says MLS 9 out of 10 because fuck Mike Oliver. I love that. Burmy says MLS 6. Yeah, I think about 6 is like fine. Chris says like Saliba 7. Hold on, I'm like clicking on these and they're not doing anything. Hold on real quick. Am I frozen? Yeah, it's frozen. Okay, there we go. I froze. Okay. I was like, wait a minute, nothing is working. Saliba, Big Gabby solid, both 7. Big Gabby, a proper leader, 8 for me. I love that. Okay, Chris says Saliba 7. So yeah, just somewhere around there. Chris says, "Man's a superhero. He's been kicked to pieces and is dead on his feet. Needs a break soon, though. Gonna fall apart." And I'll say, going back to like the Timber thing as well, like I know that one thing that Timber does need to improve on, and I think maybe most of us probably do agree on this. You guys can let me know if you do, but in the final third, I think there's room to grow. And I think there's been a little bit maybe a frustration that, maybe he doesn't have like some of the same qualities as Ben White does on the ball at times. But what I will say is that we've literally, I think besides the SAR goal, which I wouldn't even blame him, SAR basically went down the middle. But it was like more middle right. I don't literally remember any goals coming off of his side. One thing about Timber is you can't target that side, whether he's at peak fitness or kind of on the edges where he is now. One thing we never have to worry about is him getting cooked on that side. And so I just say that with like, there are pluses and minuses to most of our players. I think there's only like one or two or maybe three players in our team that literally there's like there's nobody else that we'd rather have in that position than them. But as much as I feel like Timber needs to improve in the final third, what he doesn't do is he doesn't get cooked defensively. There's like nothing to worry about on that side. Nothing. And he also allows the right winger to be a lot more adventurous. So yeah. Trini says, "Hey Jess, remember when you went on a rant for 30 minutes on mute?" Yes. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Burmy says Timber is press resistant. When he's at peak fitness, he is. I think he's just a little bit losing his fitness. Blaze says Gabrielle won't go anywhere. Same thing with Saliba. Boy says, "I think Timber can be better on the ball than White. He just doesn't know how good he is in attack." I just think what happens when you have people that carry the ball is often they carry the ball into areas and there's like our team never has anybody making any runs. And so I think when he picks his head up, he's pretty much run into the rest of his teammates. And so I think that's more of like a attack problem than anything else. Because when Timber's carrying the ball and he gets past a couple men, if you're just standing there watching like we are at home, that's not the best, So yeah, I think Timber, his thing is we don't have a lot of carriers in the team. And I just don't think our attackers have the lights on to figure out what spaces to run into when he's running through the rest of the team. They just kind of fucking stand there. So then he ends up turning back around and kicking it back to someone else. And I'm just like, that's just such a missed opportunity, So I think he can improve on certain things, but equally, I just don't think our team knows, like the attackers just literally are like when somebody else is doing something and it's like make a fucking run. you know oh Kala, okay, so um I feel like this is the main thing that Kala gives you is, yeah, he might be a little weird at the back sometimes, a little um maybe unreliable defending at times. But what he does give you is that confidence in the box that some of our attackers just don't have. Um, this is the unique proposition that Calafiori gives you, that I don't even think MLS gives you, because MLS is like more of a passer and a DM. I don't know where they made Calafiori. I don't know what lab in Italy they made him in, but this guy does not play like a center back. He plays like somebody that believes he should have been playing on the wing. And I think he did say he used to be a winger. I like players that are instinctive. And I think that he has that instinctiveness that a lot of our players lack now because they've had that coached out of him. I don't think there's any point in spending money on Calafiori to just pull apart that instinctiveness and put it to the side and make him into a robot. This is a maverick type player that you kind of just let do their thing. I think him and Declan, there's like certain players on our team that just do the natural thing that comes to them. And when they do that, good things happen. The shot against Manchester City, that's just instinctive. Nobody else in our team does that because they think to recycle possession. He's in a position in the box. He doesn't pull it down. He doesn't try to pass it to someone else. He just kicks it in the back. And that's a great finish, by the way, that, I don't know if many of our players would have gotten that right, So And I think he did well when he came on, just in general play. Outside of the moment, I think in general play, he was actually pretty good. And I thought him and Tierney looked decent on that left-hand side. So, yeah, I'm happy to see Calla back. A big moment for a big player that I think has been maybe a little bit too heavily criticized. I know that the injuries are like annoying, but this is not like if he's not playing for us this season, he's playing for Real Madrid. So I think there's a little bit of dishonesty with this player because we're frustrated about the way that the window panned out. The injuries are definitely could end up being problematic, but when he's on the pitch, I think I see more positive than negative. So it would have been like a 7, but with that goal, 7.5, good performance, good player. Just need him to stay fit if he can. Wanyeri, I think struggled quite a bit, but also had like a really good moment that should have ended in a goal. That one, I mean, it was just such a good buildup. I think Partey passed it to Wanyeri. Wanyeri takes like a really nice, like quick touch out of pressure, passes it to Rice. Rice gets it and passes it to Trossard, and Trossard puts in like the perfect cross to Kai, and Kai does what Kai does. So um it wasn't all bad, but again, I think there's almost like a weird obsession with elevating young players to positions that they shouldn't be in, not necessarily from the manager standpoint, but as fans you should expect there to be a drop off in our play if Odegaard's not playing and Wanyeri is. Does that mean Wanyeri is going to be ass? No. Does that mean that I don't think Arteta could have used him earlier? No, I think Arteta should have used him more, but you should expect a drop off. This fake Odegaard and Wanyeri are on the same level and Wanyeri is better is just stupidity. I'm so sorry. You sound really dumb when you guys say that. Like, and maybe it's not you, but it's just it's just not it. Odegaard at his worst level is still going to be better than Wanyeri in that position. Hopefully, Odegaard is back because I do think that Wanyeri has an easier betting into the team not playing one of our most important positions. That right center mid is like a huge cog in the wheel. We have cogs in the wheel. Some are this big where you can chop and change that and we get pretty much the same, the same outcome. Like the Saliba and Gabriel cogs are like this big. The Odegaard cog is like this big. The Saka cog is like this big. That left wing is like this big. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like that right center mid, no matter how you chop and change it, that shit is not easy. And so I expected him to have some issues. I do think coming back from injury didn't help. But if Odegaard is not available, would I play him there again? Yes. Absolutely. If that's the position that Arteta sees him in, then if Odegaard's not available and he can't play right wing, I'd rather you do that than drag Trossard into a position that we don't see him long term. We don't get any added value from Trossard playing there. We don't get any added value from Havertz playing there. Wanyeri is the best suited, but there was always going to be a drop off. And so I don't even blame him for that. And I'm not going to do that, hold smoke. If you're young enough, you're old enough, hold smoke. Not even that. I expect there to be a drop off, and I like to try to look at him and Miles's performances from the lens of they're fucking 17, 18 years old. Like they shouldn't even be here for real. So I'm gonna give him a 6. Because also he came out at halftime. But again, if Odegaard was unable to play in the next game, I wouldn't go with Partey, Havertz, Marino bullshit or, whatever. I'm going to throw him into the fire again because he's the most likely successor for that position long term. And so I'd rather him get that experience for sure. But yeah, it wasn't like the best, but what do you expect? I'll hold there. I'll hold there for a second. Victor says, yeah, continue to play him there. Brian says, Wanyeri could be good. All the talent is there. He just needs confidence. Still won't be on O's level. And like, when I say that, I mean in present tense. There's a world where Wanyeri eclipses Odegaard once he fully gets acclimated. I am open to that. I'm open to that because I'm not a hater like that. If Wanyeri ended up being better than Odegaard, I want Wanyeri playing because I want Arsenal to be good. So, but it's not right now, and anybody who thinks it's right now is dumb. So it's not, you know, it's not. And then also when I just put too much pressure on him. He's too young to be pretending like he's going to be able to play that big ass position in our team. That's like, I know he's gone now, but if we had put Heaven back there and said, go do a Gabrielle, I'm sure you guys would be honest about like, yeah, it's not going to be that levels, right? Boy says when Yeri is the most gifted player at the club. To be frank, this is about him just getting his reps, and I don't disagree. It's not about comparing Odegaard and Wanyeri for who's more talented. It's who's better at the present moment. I think is a different conversation. Marco says Wanyeri tiered to do what Odegaard can't. I love Odegaard, but we're missing that ball carrier in the mid that can go past a player. When Yeri tries it, and he also lost the ball quite a few times today. So I think like we could just be honest, about the performance. It wasn't great. And yeah, one of the things that when Yeri has that Odegaard doesn't is the ability to carry the ball. And I agree with that. But when you carry it into traffic and you lose it, so it's really not here nor there. I don't even feel like at this stage Arsenal fans should even be debating this. I feel like this is just something that is almost like a forced conversation based on if you don't like Odegaard and you don't think he's good enough, just say that. I feel like that's more honest than this fake conversation that we're having about Wanyeri, because even after Wanyeri scored that goal against Brighton, I saw people saying that, look at, he has a higher ceiling than Saka. So I know that this is like embedded in our fan base. We're like very disingenuous, and quite frankly, we could be liars, but and then he continued to have a poor game after that. He's just a young player that definitely deserves playing time and Arteta should trust, but we shouldn't even be comparing him to two of our best players that before this season, you would have said that Odegaard was a big part of like what we were doing. He's having a poor season, and we know Saka is. So we don't need to you know, it's a disingenuous and weird conversation. So yeah, but yeah, that's all it is. But yeah, when Yeri, I will play you there tomorrow, if Odegaard could not play. And if Odegaard can play, I'm playing you at right wing. Like, because you're our best option at right wing. He's so talented. Um, Partey, not like a bad game. It was a pretty good game, for him, all things considered. It wasn't like a shining Partey performance, but it was a decent one, so I'll give him a 7. I think he was right in the mix of the good performers. So yeah, nothing really spectacular. Don't want him shooting from outside the box though. Let's stop telling him to shoot. Cause yeah. Um, I thought another top level performance from Declan today. Not as good as the performance against Aston Villa or the performance against Dinamo, but definitely like when we talk about there's a bunch of players out of form, this is not one of them. He's doing exactly what we needed the entire team to do, which is start off kind of slow and then hit peak form around like February. He's like kind of the only one that's doing it right now. The defenders have been good all season, but in terms of from defense forward, like midfield forward, he's kind of the only one doing the assignment. He is in good form right now. So yeah, not as good as the last performances, but definitely like a really good performance from him. A good box to box performance, did good things in the final third, did good things defensively as well. So just a little bit higher than everyone else. We give him a 7.5. Thought he was really good again today. And then we'll get to them. And by them, I mean the attackers. Die Hard says decent from Rise 7. He's still not giving me great. Sorry, very ordinary. Yeah, I mean, if you watched with a blindfold, if you watched the games with the blindfold against Aston Villa and Dinamo, then yeah, you'll think his performances have been not so great. But I think we're at a point now where we don't have to pretend like he's not playing well. Um, or he's some average guy. Victor says Decker's coming in clutch as always. Esteban says Rice and Gabriel have been our best players in the difficult stretch, 8 out of 10 today. Yeah, watching with your eyes. Yeah, I think all things considered, he's been good. So Boy says just allow Wanyeri to take his risks with his possession. He must learn his game. I want Wanyeri, Odegaard, Rice as a midfield trio at some point this season. And one thing I'll never say is that I don't want Wanyeri to play his game. I just feel like the expectation should be that the level will drop because you have a 17-year-old in there instead of, your main right midfielder. I would never want him to play a more pragmatic game just not to give the ball away. When he was giving the ball away, my first thought wasn't, oh my gosh, don't do that. It was, these are the risks that you take when you have a young player in the team. But the last thing that we want is to, just like with Calafiori and Rice to a certain extent, I really don't want the instinctiveness to be stripped away from MLS and Wanyeri. I feel like so many of our players have started off as certain players and have become something different, not necessarily better, but different, more systemized, more pragmatic, more, for the betterment of the team, and they've lost some of their sparkle. I think Saka is one of those where if you look at old videos of Saka, he's more efficient now, but he's definitely not the same mavericky type of, go past you and all this, he takes, he's more pragmatic. Odegaard's more pragmatic, so I think moving forward, we have to let, especially our attackers, have the ability to make mistakes and the defense just bail them out sometimes. So I would never want Wanyeri not to do those things, but the expectation should be that he's going to make mistakes. UK says, Jess, we had Fabregas and he did it. Fabregas is we Fabregas, players like that shouldn't even be in these conversations. I think Fabregas is one of the best midfielders that have ever played for this club and other clubs as well. So he is a Chelsea legend. He is one of the ones that got away for us. Um, Trying to equalize Wanyeri and Fabregas in any sentence, I think, is disrespectful to Fabregas. Fabregas was basically running point for us, after like one season of he was an invincible, but didn't really play that much. Very next season, he was like a very big part of the team at a very young age. So Fabregas is just like, let's not get, Wanyeri's good, but Fabregas is untouchable in these conversations. He's untouchable in these conversations. We need to be honest. Them. Okay. So, like, where do I even fucking start? Listen, probably the least offensive to me today, and that's probably because he touched the ball not as much, or he might have touched the ball more than Havertz, but I just feel it was just, you know what it was? You're not getting the ball over the first man on your corners, and that was just irritating the shit out of me. I'm like, you got to get it over the first man, don't you? Trossard is way better than that. I know he's not as good as Declan or Saka at the corners, but I need you to be professional. Get it over the first man. He wasn't losing the ball crazy, but it just like from the last two games, sitting down Poro and then the game against Aston Villa, I do feel like this was like a step backwards for him in terms of like just the cleanness of the performance. It wasn't like horrendous, but I was a little bit offended by this performance. I can't lie. But the corners were really like, sir, you know, um, you must get it over 5.5. Martinelli now, because we are so right side dominant, he touched the ball a lot. And I think the more he touches the ball, the more annoying it becomes because he's just not. Oh my gosh, how am I going to say this? He's just not a thinker. And the more you have the ball, the more you need to think. And I think he's much better when the answer is obvious and when there's only one thing to do and you only need to touch the ball once, and that's to kick it in the back of the net. Now, his one moment, remember performances and moments are different, and we cannot ignore the performance because he came up with a good moment. Give him credit for the cross to Calafiori, but every other moment within that performance outside of that, let's be honest, it wasn't tea, was it? It was hard. It was a hard watch. Um, just yeah, a step backwards from the last 2 games, the Dynamo game and the, Villa game, step backwards from that. Um, 5.5. Um, some people said that he played well today, and I just feel like that disease is running rampant in this fan base. Surely not. Even all things considered, he's not a striker, he's not a number 9. I just don't think you can watch a performance when you're constantly on the ground, you can't hold the ball up, you stumbling over yourself, you miss 3 chances, where in any world other than I'm giving him a lot of credit for pressing, which again, a lot of the things that people talk about this guy like being good at are things that you have to really poke through in the weeds to see. You have to squint your eyes real hard. You have to go into the spreadsheets and dig out stats and things that really, as football fans, we don't give a fuck about. I don't really care about how hard you ran and the odd pressing as an attacker, because you are either going to be playing left 8 for us or as some sort of number 9. I expect you to make it shake in the final third, and you're not making it shake at all. Not today. And so usually the difference between the way that we feel about Havertz's performances are very much so centered around whether or not he taps in the ball. Most of his performances are like this, in my opinion. They're varying degrees of this performance. Um, Varying degrees of this same performance. But if he gets the tap in or he heads the ball in the back of the net, then we forgive him. And I think to a certain extent, you have to. But for a player on these wages that we paid for, we definitely want more than he tapped the ball in. So I'm happy with the performance. Um, it's just a lot. It's just a lot because on the timeline, simultaneously, while this game is going on, I'm seeing people retweet clips of him at Leverkusen. And when you look at those, you just growing 4 inches just took your whole game away. His whole bag is gone. The whole game is gone. I don't even know. I don't even play video games like that, but I'm sure that like in certain games you earn different skills and stuff like that. It's like they took those skills away. Like you downgraded in the game. Um he just doesn't have those anymore. And then simultaneously also there's clips of like Isak going around. And Isak is probably the best striker in the league right now. He just is. So for Arsenal fans to sit there and say that they're okay with what they saw today when they watch Isak every week is why I know that they're lying. And I don't know why they're lying. There's no reason to. There's no metrics from like, oh, in all competitions, he blank. Some of those goals were against really poor teams. How many times has Havertz scored against a top 6 side? Or even like just a good team, like, because even some of our top 6 teams are not, as good as like the Bournemouths and then Nottingham Forest and I just feel like let's just be honest, especially away from home. He is very, very sketchy away from home. At home, he scores goals. Away from home, it's a lot of times he's dropping zeros. So I don't even really want to give him score because I don't really, whatever. So yeah, and like Chelsea and Spurs last season. What about Liverpool? He's like non-existent against Liverpool, non-existent against City, you know? Like, and some of the top 6 teams that we play against, like Chelsea and Spurs are really, really poor teams last season, really poor. When we played against Chelsea this season, he didn't do fuck all. So, yeah, that's all I'm saying is that I do feel like the standards for the striker have dropped down. It's like we're trying to modify it into because he plays for us, we have to change what a striker is meant to be or change what an attacker is meant to be. Take away just the goals for a second. As an attacker, I expect you to have more motion than this. You know, I expect you to have more motion in your game. I expect you to have more to get a game off. And he doesn't get a game off. Like it's just mostly I'm like, what? You're not taking men on. You can't hold up the ball. No nice passing, no flair, no nothing. It's just if it's not a tap in, it's not happening, you know? Um, yeah, whatever. Um, it is what it is. Um, he's just not yeah. So you guys can give him a score if you want. I just don't if I because I would probably give him like a below average. I thought the performance was really poor. Um, but you know, if you put that up there, so many people will be up like literally foaming at the mouth, mad. And I'm just like, I've never seen a player with so l- little talent so protected by this fan base. Like genuinely. So, and I'm not saying go abuse his anybody. I'm not saying go into his DMs. I'm not saying none of that, you know? But I'm just saying, like, being honest, doing the match reaction after that performance, that was not good, you know? So UK Arsenal says Havertz was a 4 today. Die Gunner says sign Victor Osimhen. Sai says not blame, but undoubtedly a factor. And you know, maybe there's. I think the only thing I could probably give him that I'm like, you know, maybe he's tired. You know, maybe he's just not up to the physical level. Um. So yeah, yeah. John P says he would be a handy squad player to have. We all know we need something else, but is all we have right now. I cannot fault his effort though, and I kind of agree with this take as well. Like, if he was just a squad player and he was contributing off of the bench, he's much easier to stomach. Not at the wages and what we paid for him, but just like once you get past that, I think you know he could be a decent squad player, filling in, you know, in different positions, I guess, you know. But even when you think about it that way, like idealistically, if I had the pockets and I owned Arsenal and I could do anything this summer, I would say you need to replace Jesus and buy a number 9. Um, and then if you bring in that Nipin guy and you have Wanyeri and you have Marino, those players for me are more important to play in the 8 position than he is as well. So I still don't really know where he fits in. I guess he fits in as a backup striker, but I would even want to bring in some like you know what I mean? I don't see where he fits in, but he fits in as a squad player at the like look like that's where he fits in for me. You know, that's where he fits in for me. So, yeah, he's just, yeah, you know. Um Blaze says our defenders have better ratings than our attackers. This is insane. We should sign Big Gabby or Alessia Russo as a striker. And if you ever watch the women, it's actually like it's flipped, but the women have so much attacking talent to their disposal, and we are built differently, you know? We're built so much differently, and I get the defense you need to build from the back, but we built from the back for 5 years, and it's time to buy something else, you know? And for people asking about, like, the title race or not the title race, the transfer window and stuff like that, um, I don't think we'll get anybody, but I said that at the beginning. If we do get somebody, it'll be that kid, that Niping kid. That's the only person that we seem to be really like chasing for real. And hopefully we get that over the line because separate to what we need to get for the now, I think we should be doing this anyway. I think Arsenal are very behind the times in terms of buying young players and young, highly talented players and developing them. I think, everybody else is building these multi-club kind of situations and have feeder clubs and are buying up all this talent in different areas and, taking them, putting them out on loan or bringing them into the team and developing them. That is something we should be doing even outside of what we're building for the now. I think we're very one track minded and we can't walk and chew gum at the same time. So no, Nipin or whatever his name is won't help for now. Well, he can contribute, but he's not like the answer, if that makes sense. Like he doesn't answer this question, the striker question, but that's the only thing I can see us getting done. I can't say any, like I can't see us getting anything else done. So it's the 25th of January and Arsenal take eons to get deals done. I know Ornstein said Arsenal will bring in somebody before the end of the window or blah, 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 but I just don't see them getting it done, unfortunately. So yeah, you know, um, Die Hard says Sesko is not good enough. Marco says Nipin is a football manager gem. Our scouts have been playing the game. Boy says no chance we get Nipin if you ask me. Anton Dunn says, so I'll ask again. Do you think the Kroenkes are justified in not giving Arteta any money because of signings like this? I've seen this going around on socials a lot. I don't know if I don't think I feel very as strongly as other people about don't give Mikel any more money. I think regardless we need a striker and we need a sporting director. And I think the biggest problem that we have is that if you have a sporting director and Arteta doesn't have as much power, then it's not buying Arteta players, it's buying Arsenal players. Right now, we're buying Arteta players, and that's not necessarily the same as buying clubs or players for the betterment of the club. It's just what he wants. And so whether Arteta's the manager or I'm the manager, we need a striker. So it's not really about buying Arteta more players. It's about we need a striker no matter what, whether he's here or not. So I don't even think this Kroenkes are necessarily cutting off funds because it's Mikel. I think they're cutting off funds because they always wanted to get to a self-sustaining model once we got back into top four. And this past summer window reeked of self-sustaining model, got to sell ESR and sell Nketiah to bring in just one or two players, it reeked of that, and when you have a average DOF like Edu who cannot sell and has no real connections and isn't creative, and the only thing that he can do is go to Chelsea and pick off old pieces of whatever they got going on, then you set yourself up for failure. So I don't feel like we should just not buy anymore because Arteta's the manager and he screwed up the funds. I'm more concerned about buying things without a sporting director because a sporting director would be buying players for Arsenal and not just for Mikel. And that's where we've gone in the wrong direction. We're buying players that just Arteta wants, anything he wants. And it really should be more of a club thing. And you work with what we give you. We'll give you some of the shit you want, but you will not go through multiple windows without a striker because whether you're here or not, baby, we need somebody to put the ball in the back of the net, So the structure is fucked up, So this whole Arteta shouldn't get any more money is not something that I feel strongly about. I feel like Arsenal need to buy a striker for Arsenal, and Arteta needs to work with that striker, and they need to overrule him at times. They cannot just you can't just get getting away with this, does that make sense? So again, a lot of these things are really nuanced and they're not just black and white. And I just don't believe in just cutting off the funds because even if we had a great DOF and a different manager, they would probably maybe not make these mistakes like the Kai mistake, but they would have made mistakes too. And so we'd still need to continue to buy. And I think we are in a scary era right now where if the Kroenkes have decided that because we're a consistent top four team, because if we finish in the top four again this season, then that will be 3 years. So they will think we're nailed in. then if we're self-sustaining without an excellent DOF that can bring in players that their value can be built up, and if they don't work out for us, we can sell for large fees so that we can make the kitty for us to buy the players that we need, which at this stage are kind of expensive players. We're in a dark, dark place. We are in a dark, dark place, and it's giving that. That last window gave we're doing self-sustaining, and self-sustaining only works if you have good football people in the building. And right now we just have lawyers. We need people that understand what talent looks like, talent that could take us to the next level and also can be sold for good fees. You can't just, and you also need to have a manager on board with not icing those players out so badly that you damage, you know, their worth, so we're in a weird kind of nasty place right now where it's looking a little dark, it's looking a little dark, you know, but yeah. Johnny says, question is, if Havertz accepts half the pay cut, can we sell him for 20 million? Now, call me like this won't go down well, but you guys know I don't really care. I think some people are a little bit too um emotional sometimes about things, but if we can't sell Jesus, I would probably look to sell Kai this summer. And the reason why is because you need to get somebody with those high wages that aren't really earning it the way that they should off of the books. So I probably would before his because once you buy a striker and he's not playing as much, his value is going to tank. So I would be, if somebody offered us 30 million for Havertz and we could get the 200 and something thousand pounds off the week, I would take it. I know we won't because Arteta's still trying to prove that he's the right person and all this kind of shit, but I would, because him on those wages being a squad player is not an Arsenal thing. Arsenal can't carry that, so yeah. Stefan says Havertz is genuinely a bad footballer. He might be the worst forward I've seen in the Emirates era in terms of fundamentals, and I agree. Havertz is awful. Diehard Gunner says Victor Osimhen is the one we need. Big physical brute. We desperately need. We desperate. Oh, like he is desperate to score. I get what you're saying. Johnny says I don't mind Jesus. He was scoring with every chance for no reason at all. Arteta got him out of the team for Havertz. Jesus also needs to go, but the problem with that is that because he's going to probably not come back until after the summer window, there will be no opportunity to sell him. So again, the summer window will have passed and Jesus will still be on the books. But somebody with those high ass wages needs to go, in order for us to, and I think that that's going to shift things for the renewals of some of these older players too. Can we afford to give Trossard a bump? Can we afford to re-sign Thomas Partey? I think Jesus, that throws a lot of those things into we don't know, into the gray area, because make no mistake about it, Jesus was meant to go. Zinchenko, Jesus, and that is a big wage that needs to go to a big player. And so yeah, like Jesus does need to go, but we're not going to be able to sell him when he's on, not playing. It's impossible. So I don't really, I don't know why people are acting like we can sell Jesus when he's not, like when he has an ACL injury. Surely we know that that's impossible, right? But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. UK Arsenal says no other managers would not have signed a striker with that amount of money, spent. Yeah. I think it's strange that we haven't, and definitely a failing on the club not doing it. We shouldn't be having the striker conversation in 2025. It's just ridiculous. Diehard Gunner says we don't have a wage problem. We have a coach problem. Well, it's not really a wage problem. It's definitely something that has to be considered with transfers. So I wouldn't say we don't like a wage problem. I would just say that like another coach doesn't come in and make Havertz into a better player. So these conversations with a different coach doesn't change the fact that both Jesus and Havertz are taking up wages that inevitably will stop us from getting the players that we want. So it's not really like, if you're trying to say that Arteta is the main problem, that's completely different than the conversation about the wages, because that comes into play no matter what manager we have from here forward anyway. James says, put Isak in our attack with Trossard and Martinelli. It will fix our counter-attacking play. Jesus and Kai do need to go. We're not getting Isak, though. And that's why I'm surprised that people are still turning their nose up at Sesko, because it's like they need the talent to slap them across the face. They need it to be like they don't want to have anybody that they may have to may need time to adapt. They don't want anybody that has high potential. They don't want anybody that's not a big name. They don't want anybody that's going to cost us the entire that's not going to cost us the entire budget. They will turn down Isak and then turn around and kiss his ass now when they didn't want him when he was at Sociedad. I'm not Sesko and Isak are not the same type of players. They're different. Isak is more of like a cultured kind of like very good on the ball type of guy, but Sesko is like a natural number 9. I'm really in a high quality one that in the next 1 to 2 years could be world class. And the reason why I feel like people are really turned off from him is because when they hear that somebody will be world class in 1 to 2 years, what they hear is like, oh, well, they're going to be shit before they get there. And I say this like with kindness. If you think that you put Sesko in this team and he doesn't score goals, then I don't know if you're actually like absorbing what kind of player he is. We have such a bad group of strikers that they've probably convinced you guys that anybody other than a world-class striker can't fix this. We could have Delap in this team. We could have Solanke in this team. We could have Cunha in this team. We could have give me somebody else. The striker off of Bournemouth in this team. We could have Mbomo in this team. None of those players are world class, but they score more goals than the players that we got now. So why is the case that Sesko can't contribute to this team on his way to becoming one of the best 9s in the world? The physical attributes that he has, you cannot get those. You don't make those. The speed, the physicality, the way he strikes through the ball, those are things that are not just falling off of trees. So I don't get the Sesko hate. I don't understand. Because even as like somebody that is not world class right out of the box, neither was Isak. And all he needed was 1 fucking year. All he needed was 1 season at Newcastle. And he wasn't even a dud the first year. It just took him into the second year to really explode. So I don't really understand the hate, for Sesko. But if you don't, if you need a big name or you need it to slap it across your face, you're probably the same person that would have turned down Isak. And so I wouldn't want to do the same thing. I would not want to do the same thing twice. Sesko is the exact player that Chelsea go get, and in 2 years, he's better than anything that we've ever gotten. And you guys are, why didn't we get him when we got da? Sesko is so obviously the next guy up. It's ridiculous. It's so clear. It's so obvious. But y'all don't want it because it's not a name. I think that's not 90% of what it is. He's not a name. He's not somebody that you could say like, oh, we got so and so. It's yeah. Let's see. Boy says if you wouldn't have signed Isak after his last season at Sociedad, I don't think you should be talking about strikers. Yeah, but we like to repeat the same things. If we don't see something so obviously, it's like people are just like the club. They need it to slap them across the face. It's just strange to me. People that say that Sesko doesn't look like a good player, I just don't think you're actually watching him. I really don't. And for people that want Victor Osimhen, by the way, why do you think no top team wants him? Why do you think he has no motion? Why is he in Turkey? Genuinely. Because if he's so good, even with the high wages that he wants, surely Chelsea wanted a striker this summer. Manchester United want a striker this summer. Why didn't we were looking at a striker. Why isn't anybody wanting him? What politics? What politics? What politics? What politics? What politics? Say it plainly. What politics are they? And don't just say things that you, oh, because he's black. So Chelsea didn't go buy a black striker, even though they have Nico Jackson? He's African. Make it make sense, guys. Why didn't Chelsea go get Osimhen? Come on, y'all. I get it that some things are because you're black, but I don't think that this is because he's black. I really don't. I one, I just he just has no motion. He has no motion. So many clubs are looking for like strikers, and he has no motion from anybody. I feel the same way about Shirky. Shirky is the Messi without the PMP, and nobody will touch him with a 10-foot pole. You know, I don't think that these players that are just like almost blackballed, it's not always because of race. Sometimes it's you ain't got no motion because maybe they don't think you're worth the wages that you're asking for. Maybe the people around you are not the best people, you know, but yeah, no. No. But yeah, if you guys think it's because he's black, fair enough. That's an opinion that I don't share. I think Osimhen is just not somebody that people really particularly get on. Like, he's just not somebody that I feel like people want to spend those wages on. They see something, and also he's injury prone, so it could be the fact that he wants really high wages and he's injury prone and the people around him are not the best, so it could be those things, I don't know. But I mean, are we saying that like Arsenal don't want a black striker? What are we saying? What are we saying? Jordan says, if Osimhen was white, he'd get away with things. Just think about Alvaro Morata. How many top clubs have signed that guy and he's not that good? I mean, I don't know. Maybe, but let's see, because his wages, I don't know what his wages will be when he leaves there. Galatasaray, I think he's at, right? Is it Galatasaray? And then he should be a lot less, fee wise. So let's see, if nobody will touch him again. But there's been a lot of black strikers in the Prem. A lot of the top teams that we're talking about that needed strikers historically have had black strikers in the past. I'm finding it difficult to think that they just don't want him because he's black. But fair enough if that's what you think. Jordan says if Osimhen, oh yeah, I read that one. Sai says because he's black is the most embarrassing take. I think if there was nothing else outstanding that you could think of, then I could see that. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, if you guys want Osimhen, that's cool. We just will never get him. Like he's been linked to us maybe once in the past and it never came back. I really think it's more of like what I think will happen is in the summer, we'll spend a long time chasing Isak and we won't get him. And then maybe we'll go for Sesko if somebody else hasn't scooped him up. But I think we should just sign Sesko now and just call it a day. Spend the 70 million it would take to get him out of Leipzig and just call it a day. And just move on with our lives. Like, it's just the Isak obsession it's giving restraining order at this point. Arteta, please. Like, they're gonna arrest you soon. And we're never gonna get him, but a top left wing and Sesko and a midfielder and we'll go on, but yeah. Anyways, this went like totally left, so yeah. Which isn't unnatural for us because usually like we're talking about everything under the sun. But I'm so glad we won this game. We needed to persevere after the bullshit. And I'm super glad that we did, and we deserved that win. And hopefully we can take that into our next game. Tierney also, I didn't give him like a rating, but I would have given him like a 7. Like, I thought he looked good, and I hope he gets his pre-contract with Celtic and that works out for him. I know he won't leave until the end of the season with the pre-contract, but The fact that he's making teams and Kivior is not, um, we should be looking to sell Kivior, and Zinchenko in this window. I don't care how thin we are at the back. Them guys, they're nah. Let him go. Let him go. But we'll talk again. Make sure you guys like and subscribe on your way out. And I will talk to you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.